So live. Okay, we'll call the meeting to order, and the first order of business, of course, is the approval of the agenda and order of business, and I think you probably already know, but I had a 10.1, a letter from Church Memorial Park, an in-camera contract negotiations, 12.1, and a personnel matter, 12.2. Those are the changes I have. Does anybody else have anything to?
Motion to approve agenda as amended.
Seconder?
Second.
Discussion, all those in favor? Opposed, motion is carried. Public input, and I understand we do have public. Yes,
Am I the only one?
I believe so.
Thank you for the indulgence. I just wanted to speak on a point of order. Hilliard Developments is here today to present a presentation regarding the wastewater update on the Chester Hills development.
Yes,
Councillor Vino has recused himself from any matters in regards to Chester Hills, as Able Engineering has been hired by the company and they're engaged with them throughout this whole process for the application for development agreement.
that's correct.
So I just wanted to point out that under the rules of order that, and I trust that Councillor Vino would honorably remove himself from the chamber during the presentation of Hilliard today, and any discussion that takes place based on the conversation.
Yes, he's done so in the past, and I expect he will today.
Yeah, no,
That was certainly my intent, yeah.
no, and that's what I'm saying. I just wanted to bring that up.
No problem.
Because I know that a speaker had come off the floor, now not in a formal presentation, but it's spoken on Chester Hills. And you were here at the time, but it wasn't a formal presentation that we're talking about today,
Yeah.
so. I wanted to make
He's
sure.
not involved in any decision-making process, really.
But no, I understand how recused works, so I just wanted to bring that up before we got into this. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
The record just showed the name of the speaker.
Oh, I'm sorry, Tony Rogers.
I know who you are.
Oh, I know you.
I forgot to ask, but state his name.
And I didn't quote the board of rules, so we're all.
No, that's okay. I just wanted everybody else to know who you were.
Okay, minutes of the previous meeting, cancel April 27th, errors or omissions.
We approve the minutes.
Second.
Discussion, all those in favor? Opposed, motion's carried. Proclamation requests, International Day of Homophobia and Transphobia. Somebody prepared to move that we proclaim those in usual manner?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, all those in favor? Opposed, motion's carried. And 5.2, accessibility awareness proclamation.
It does, sorry, I'll speak to that. It says referred item 6.1, I'm sorry.
From there.
Yep, so read the problem.
Somebody prepared to move we proclaim?
I'll move. Second.
Discussion, all those in favor? Opposed, motion's carried. What is it you want to speak on?
No, which the next agenda.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can find that one. So, in that place. Okay, 6.1, equity, diversity, and inclusion, April 25th. Councilor Connors.
Thank you. So just to speak to that, the motion that we just made, moved and seconded, the policy of the Municipality of Chester allows for the EDI committee to bring forward and recommend. So I just wanted to bring that to the table because it could be happening, you know, not on a regular basis necessarily, but it's important to recognize the role of the EDI committee, of which Councilor Ainsworth and I and staff and citizens do sit.
Purpose of all committees is to recommend the council.
Absolutely. So in terms of our flag raising policy and policy of council. So thank you for that. Ellen and I will report back to the EDI committee. Thank you.
Okay, that is pretty. Yeah, that's it for the committee reports.
Yep.
Okay, public presentations. Here from Allen Developments.
They're projections at 9.
Oh, sorry.
So, but they're here, so it's.
Are you all right to do it now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right, well, I have a conflict, so.
Yeah, you left the minutes show that the Councilor Reno was declared conflict
Left the room.
and left the room. Morning. Hello. You guys watch the Leaf game?
I did.
Cavs fan. Cavs fan. Well, you're down.
I'm golfing. I'm on the golf course.
There's still some slim hope for the tournament.
Weeks and seven. Weeks and seven, yeah. Heard that before.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us. We don't have much of a presentation here today, it's just, we're hoping to have a bit of an open dialogue on where we are. You've seen our letter, I saw it flashed up there. I don't know if everyone's had a chance to review that. Really, I guess two things we're looking to have a discussion on today or beyond this. There's been a fee proposed for future development within for sewer connection. And we've proposed
Some changes.
our view of or suggestion of starting point of what we think is a reasonable fee based on other jurisdictions and the infrastructure that we're looking at. And I guess one, we're looking to have a discussion on if they're open to discussion on that and really to talk through how we came up with this and why.
Yeah, I mean, we just recently came to the conclusion that we did with, so, yeah, we're happy to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, so going into this, you know, it would have been an assumption that there would be some sort of fee, but initially it was really a debate between, for us, great opportunity to bring development to Chester, and took a design approach from a density standpoint that would allow septic or sewer, because we didn't know if sewer would be available. It's currently not, obviously, at the site. Our density application, you know, potentially could have been significantly higher, but that doesn't jive with kind of what the town needs or what makes sense. So we try to find a blend of rural and town, something that suits. And this is, you know, with the ability to use septic or on-site treatment if needed.
Yeah. Well, I can say that, I mean, your proposed development helped to move us in the direction of.
For sure, yeah. Which is great. You know, it's a benefit to us. You know, we think it's better for a town system or municipal system versus on-site. But now it's an analysis of, does it make sense? You know, it makes sense from a future ownership standpoint, for sure. You know, a future buyer would be much more comfortable with a municipal system than an on-site. Long term, it's better. But there is a cost differential, and that's something we didn't plan for when we bought the land. But it's something we definitely want to entertain. But there's probably, you know, upwards of $4+ million of infrastructure to install on this site, not sewer only, but related to municipal roads and services.
Water.
That we will be handing over to the municipality for future ownership.
The roads.
The roads, yeah, and the sewer,
Yeah.
in the roads, right? But that's a cost to us before we pay any fees. So we have to build that road, install all the sewer, inspect it and engineer it and ensure it's up to municipal standard and then hand it over. So, you know, that obviously the benefit of that is we then have a denser property that we can sell. But this is a, upwards, depending on how you do the math, it's upwards of $1 million worth of fees on top of the $4 million of infrastructure that we have to then pay, and recoup that somehow within units, right? This is a big undertaking for a town like Chester. Hasn't had this in a long time. It's not proven. We think it's welcomed, obviously.
I just don't want you to be technically incorrect. Chester is not a town.
Sorry.
We've had that debate many times.
Yeah, exactly. So, even more to the point, right? It's a big development for the area. It's a big undertaking, and to increase our municipal costs by 20%, roughly 4 million to 5 million before we have units sold is significant. So we did this as a bit of a from the standpoint of what's the difference between on-site and sewer. Keeping in mind what's normal elsewhere, which it goes from nothing to, HRM, which is very significant. But they've also got extremely high property values to offset that. So this is what we came up with, and it's really based on that analysis of costs and what we think the properties can sustain.
I can't remember what fee structure we actually put in place.
So we haven't settled on
I know we have, we said
the fee. If I'm not mistaken, Fred, you've been working on it. Mostly, I think we said 6,000 for the first unit, 5,000 for the first unit, 2,500?
6,000.
6,000.
3,500.
3,500, yeah.
35.
And wasn't that meant to be
For each
cost
edition.
cost recovery? That was our trying to make a profit.
Yeah.
It's just not wanting the other parts of the municipality to subsidize that development. So any future expansion should be, they would pay for itself.
Sorry, say that again.
We don't want
Other residents, doesn't have to subsidize the cost. That's the law.
the subsidized cost of the sewer expansion should be borne by the people that are going to use it.
Right.
That was the concept behind.
Right, but in the way we look at that is we're installing the expansion.
Yeah, are you suggesting in your discussion, can you talk about it?
Sure, yeah, very next question is because my memory is not as good as it should be, just what it is you're proposing and the difference between the two.
We're proposing 1,750 per unit.
Right.
And right now, we're suggesting take away the first unit at 3,500 per unit.
Yeah,
So.
so it's closer to twice, no,
Per lot, right? So the way that we've done the math at least is if we do a duplex, right, it's 6,035 for one, so it's 9,500 for one structure that's got 2 units in it. But then you go to the next two properties and it's 6 and 35, and the next two are 6 and 35. So we don't know how the math is being done.
yeah,
So we want to have that conversation just to understand it better.
Yeah.
Because we can do the math multiple different ways. If it's 6,000 for the first unit and then 35 for the development, that's significant, obviously to us.
yeah,
And we've proposed something different for multi-unit, right? Where there's one site with one connection to the service. The same math, is it 6 and then 35 for every unit, or is it 6 only for that building?
yeah,
It's 6,000 for the first unit on a lot. And then 3,500 for each additional unit on the lot. So if there's multiple lots, there could be multiple $6,000 charges.
but if it's all
But
on
it's
one,
all on one lot.
then it's only 6
It's
for the very
6,000.
first.
Right, so the way we've designed this is that they're individual units, so outside of a multi-unit site, right? A duplex can be subdivided into a semi.
So you intend to subdivide the lots?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's.
So it would,
that's
in theory, that would be 6,000 per unit.
So you're moving from a bare land condo to taking another picture.
Yes, except for one small area up top, that doesn't quite work for frontage, so that is the intent, yeah.
And you're able to do that because of the sewer and not because of the smaller lots.
The sewer definitely helps steer this towards more of a standard subdivision. And speaking with Heather and Emily, we realized that if we did sewer, we don't need to, there's not much left as a bare land condo. There's no real reason to continue with the bare land condo for bulk of the site. It can be a standard subdivision at that point in time.
Were you suggesting that there be a fee at each end now? You would front for 1750 at this point, and then a further fee to the property buyer at the other end? Is that part of the proposal?
No, we're basing our,
That's a straight 1750 and that's it.
at the time of connection.
At the time of connection.
Yeah, so it would be upfront. I guess the piece of this, I think we understand that some of this can be amortized over the, in the tax base, but we're cautious of future tax costs for the property owner, right? We don't want to just pass this on. We'd like to pay the fees for building permits and connections and be done, so a buyer can own the property with minimal additional costs than elsewhere in the community.
The option, if there's not sewer or septic.
Yeah.
How much would it take on per unit basis? How much would the septic cost you per unit?
That's how we arrived at the 1750. If you spread that out over all of the units, that was the estimate we received to kind of make it a wash, where you could, once we start paying more than 1750 per unit in the development, it's now far more costly for us to do a sewer structure than it would be to do an on-site.
Yeah.
But I think that we all have an interest in doing the sewer, right? It's better for everybody, the buyers and the municipality, to have a larger base there, but that's where that number came from. Yeah.
Yeah.
That takes into account all of the infrastructure that we have to install, in the roads ourselves.
I have some other questions, but I'll let them just ask.
You're saying
I
that,
was wondering if you did it on site, were you looking at a large system that would say be built to municipal standards and then turned over to the municipality?
yeah, which we've done before.
What you've done before?
That would also require taking down a number of the trees that we wouldn't want to. Yeah, like our intention is to keep as much as possible, right? So.
Well, I can only speak for myself. I mean, I know there's math involved, and I want staff to give me more information than I have right this minute. But I mean, we also want to encourage development. We don't want to be cost prohibitive in doing that, but at the same time, we're going to cover our costs. And as Derek said, I mean, we don't want to pass these costs on along to other residents. So I guess I'd be willing to have staff look at it myself and see if there's some middle ground or whatever.
We're not going to say no today. We want to look into it more. I have a few other questions, or I can. Well, maybe I should ask you, because I don't think staff would know. From a long-term perspective, this cost of $6,000, $3,500 versus yours, will add about $2,000 per unit. Is that sort of be a fair estimate?
Sorry.
So to add to the cost, when you eventually sell the units, this proposal will add about $2,000 to the cost of that unit.
Depending on how the math is done, it's 2,000 to 3,000. Yes. Just that's a straight cost comparison.
Somebody has to up the money to construct it all over before we put them up.
That's right. That's the big. Once the value is created, the sale price is, should hopefully recoups it all. There's no guarantees, but yeah, it's coming up with that $1 million.
Yeah.
So that's the issue then, not so much the amount, but the payment, how that amount is paid. That's what I'm saying.
Well, yeah, they're paying that up front before any.
So either way, you're still bound by the real estate market. So the real estate market can only bear so much. And so you don't have the option to just throw whatever price you want on a sale for a sale price or for a list price, what have you. The market's going to dictate what that is. And so for all of the added costs on top of it, it can push you above what the market will bear. And then you just wind up with houses that sit there and don't sell.
So this isn't your only unknown.
Right. Right.
Anyone, questions, comments?
No, I think we need staff to look at this because we don't want to be stuck with something either that starts and, give you a break on, the cost to hook up to our system and then we have to bear it because the development doesn't go for some reason. So we have to, know what the costs are to us. We just don't want to be stuck with that.
Sure.
No. But we're in the process of building the system and we're only building it so that we can
Yeah.
serve the people.
I know, that's.
Two ways to look at it.
Yeah. And we're open to conversation fully on this. We're not coming in with, we're hard and fast in 1750. That was just put forth as, this is what our math works out to be when you can contrast it with an on-site system. And so we're open to conversation on that.
Yeah.
Where are you in your process right now? I mean, is there still going development agreement or because we're?
So because we're shifting, we'll be able to, the development agreement application is still in play just while we iron out, is the sewer happening or not? Because if it's not happening, we have to revert to the,
Yeah.
but should we get confidence that this is happening, then we'll be able to move forward with subdivision. Yeah, so this is probably the biggest piece of the puzzle that needs to get put in place right now.
So we don't need a development agreement, and I don't know the answer to this, is this has a right development plan?
Yeah.
The majority of it, I think there's
Majority of it, I think
certain
just that
lots.
one, there may be a couple
There's a few
lots.
multi-site lots that would require development agreement, which we can kind of, as we go along, we can apply for those. And then in the middle there, you'll notice there's a bare land condo in the middle where you see a little parking lot and a few semis right there, yeah.
Okay.
That would require a development agreement, but the majority of the rest would simply be subdivision.
All right.
So what are your water studies shown?
So we've done, there's a well, I don't know if you can see clearly, but just at the first intersection there to the left, there's
And help me with that. Okay.
just north of that actually, right there. There's a well there that we ran a water test on. We drilled two wells. The well down at the bottom was set up as a monitoring well so that we could see what impact it would have. So that first well there has a really good water. And it's able to supply the entire first phase of the development.
Just filling out the wells as you expand.
As we expand, yeah, they'll have to be drilled and tested prior to us expanding, but we've had engineers looking at it and they're quite positive about it.
Capacities there.
Yeah, very much so, yeah. That one well especially, and it essentially had no impact on the well down below, so it was good.
More questions there?
I think I'll wait to see what staff report comes.
Yeah, and I think that's what we need, because, I mean, I'm not an engineer, obviously, but I just find that the cost of an on-site system seems awful low. To what I understand that, what it costs to build
Yeah,
a septic, it seems low to me, I mean, and that's why I like to have the information from staff, because it seems low to me.
I agree. I think this is still a good deal based on what I think, my understanding of the cost of the septic would be. But that's what I need to learn more about. I'm not going to judge that.
You just have to add in the infrastructure that we have to put in to do the sewer as well. So as soon as Chester brings the sewer down to the base of our lot, we have to install
Up the road.
all the way up the road. So that's factored into that as well. And that was
Yeah.
about $1 million, I think.
Yeah,
Just,
if we were running the lines by your house and all you had to do was hook up to that'd be different.
that's different.
That's where, that's the difference. Yeah. Yeah, so it's a little complicated.
Well, I was encouraged by the fact that you were prepared to talk about it some more. You know, I hate to take it or leave it instances because I think it would be not beneficial to either of us. So the fact that we can get some more information, ask you more questions, and come to a fair
Yeah, for
decision.
sure. We're excited about this.
what we want to do. So your words, or I don't know, nobody introduced you by name, so I don't know who to call you.
Sorry,
I don't know.
Andy Knowles,
Pardon?
Andy Knowles.
You're Andy.
Yeah.
And I'm Aaron.
You're Aaron, okay. So, nice to be able to put a face to this development. That's been a topic of a lot of conversation around
I bet.
the last year or so. So,
Do you have a time frame, just so I know?
Well, but really, the second question we have is the timeframe on sewer.
Yeah,
So
when we did that, so.
really, we're ready. You know, we have more engineering to do and permits and things like that, and a lot of infrastructure to put in, but it's really nailing this fee down and timeline for sewer. Because the worst case scenario for us is to start, have properties ready and no sewer to tie into.
Yeah, oh yeah, you need to know.
We've got a year of construction before anything's really ready to live in.
Yeah.
Whenever we start. But you know, we don't want to gamble on it being a year and a half and we're carrying that cost for an extra half year. Yeah, so we're ready.
Okay. I just think that we should maybe revisit our discussion and see whether there's any flexibility.
yeah,
Here.
I think you need to have a discussion. I agree with that.
Okay, so that's what we're gonna do, so
Sounds
we're gonna get no final word from us.
No, it's fine.
Oh, yeah.
But we're gonna take another look at it,
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
okay?
Thank you.
care.
Thank you.
Unless somebody tells me. Yeah. Yeah.
There's someone in the audience, I know we don't have any questions that we have to ask the questions.
So, yeah. There was somebody in the audience who had a question, I need the permission of council to allow them to speak,
Yeah, hi, I'm sorry, I thought there was a discussion after each.
not from the public.
Okay,
No.
yeah, I just had a couple of questions, but
No, we're not quite done yet, so is council prepared to allow the questions?
yes,
Sure. Okay, just state your name and civic address.
hi, Heather McIntosh, 80 Stanford Lake Road.
Yeah.
I have been in touch with a group of community members who are concerned about this project's scope.
Yeah.
Location, environmental impact, all of that. I noticed two changes that just came up today. The change to the subdivision idea is completely new to me. None of us were told that. Is that still permitted under the zoning, planning and zoning? Is that permitted under the municipal planning strategy in terms of density? The municipal planning strategy for the settlement area where this is located is lower density than the village. And the other one in between is the second lowest density. So it seems to me that this is going even farther away from the municipal planning strategy, which we are beholden to keep to. And then the question about the wells downstream and the water table, if they're going with wells, what would be the impact on the rest of the people who use that same aquifer? So a couple of concerns that just came up, and this project seems to be changing every single time we see a different plan, we hear a different sales pitch. Pardon me? Yep. So in terms of the community and the people who are already there, it doesn't feel great that we're not really being kept in the loop.
So I can't, I'm not the technical expert on whether or not it's allowed by right.
And I haven't, that would be our development officer, we would need comments from the development officer. She's been working closely with the land use, and she would not be able to do anything that wasn't permitted in the land use bylaw.
Yeah. And if it requires a development agreement, then there's a public
Then there's
process.
a public process. And my understanding is initially it was going to be barely a condo. And under the municipal planning strategy and land use bylaw, that would require a development agreement for barely a condo for this many units on a lot. But if they break up those lots, then it would be as a right development, and so she would be working with them.
So it depends on what road they go down, whether or not it becomes a public issue or whether it does not.
Just so you know, it's the first time I personally was aware of the change as well, so it's not like.
We're all in the same boat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thanks.
we're waiting for a final verdict. we'll see where we go. Okay. Oh, yes, bring Andre back in, yes.
We did.
Okay, so we're on to 8.1, second notice, property assessment clean energy base program policy. So it's not anything new unless somebody has some concerns that they didn't have in the past. Motion to give notice. Yes, to adopt policy.
So moved.
Second. Discussion, all those in favor, opposed, motion is carried. And we're on to 10.1, the letter from Church Memorial Park. Do you want to speak to that at all, Sharon, or no?
Well, has everyone had a chance to just read the letter?
Yeah.
Okay, well, the board, as you know, were approached by an interested group of individuals who wanted to fundraise for a new arena and just felt that we needed some information to determine whether it makes more sense to keep and repair what we have or move in that direction. And they just don't have the capacity to do this type of study, and I think it's needed to not only that, but determine what the community needs and wants are. And, look at things like accessibility and I know, certainly, I just noticed it in the paper yesterday where a rink, I think it was Sackville, they're doing a major renovation to their facility to the tune of 30 million. But their facility is, I think it's 30+ years old. This one is 53. So it just it was felt by the board that maybe it was time to do that.
Well, I agree that they should be, fixing it, but they should also look at long-term and what makes sense, lifespan, what the options are moving forward and all that kind of stuff. I didn't really expect that we would be doing the feasibility study, but I just assumed we'd help them with the funding part, but.
Yes, and I think, but they also felt it might be better for the municipality to read it in a sense, and they can work with them.
Tina?
Certainly, I'm just gonna jump in, certainly don't know as much, certainly as members of church sitting on the board and others who have had meetings and discussions, if you will. Certainly, I just want to say I applaud the working together of the group of those that have come forward with the interest, and the passion and the energies, I think, and joining up with and melding with the current board and so on. Looking at the AGM, there could be some changes on board, I don't know, right? But just want to applaud that effort because that's great. That's the true definition of communities taking the lead and working with their municipal government. And so therefore, by saying working with the municipal government, I'm gonna jump on what you had mentioned, Alan, and that's putting it in plain language, funding, but maybe not taking that lead. And I'm all in support of maybe looking at, yes, funding, because we do have that economic development fund and community development fund that we do have for such things, and maybe working with whatever group this might be called or kind of, well, it comes together here. And because I know staff resources here are stretched.
Yeah.
And timing and so on, so it would make sense to kind of rein in some of that and work together, I would think. So maybe we need to reach out to some of the joint group of some sort or whatever, but just make it happen kind of in the quickest way, the most sense way.
We have a couple more speakers, but
Sure.
I guess what I'm concerned is the municipality has not said or given any indication that they want to build a rink and things like that. So there's all that. Like, so I'm not sure. Yes, of course, we should support, help, work with, but I'm not sure it should be driven by us.
Yeah, so again, I feel like I'm repeating a little bit what was said. I think nobody's discounting the obvious value of this facility and the need for it going into the future. But I feel like if we're thinking about either doing a major renovation to that facility or building a new one, doing the feasibility study is the easiest part of that task. And if the board and their committee can't undertake that work and they require us to lead it, then it sounds like we're gonna have to do the full project. And I don't know, I think we have to have a broader discussion before we just agree to that. So, you know, I guess to echo your comments and Tina's, I think, is that, you know, maybe we can support in some way financially, contribute.
Yeah,
Because
that's
it's-
staff.
because their mandate and our mandate are aligned. You know, recreation is important. It's a key recreation facility for our residents, but why would we be leading this? Because, you know, if they can't do this, then we'll be doing the whole project.
Yes, and building the new rink is not something that council has as a strategic priority. No, it's a Derek.
Is there any number attached to the cost of the feasibility study?
Haven't seen it, Sharon?
No?
No, yeah, they have no idea, to be honest.
No, and I think we could help with that by reaching out to consultants and determining what that might mean, but, yeah.
Jared, from your experience and sense of what a feasibility study costs?
I mean, our best guess right now is probably 50 to 100, but that's a
Yes.
guess.
Now, when they were before the board, Sharon, I think we can give them $60,000 to do a study on the refit.
We gave them money to
Yes.
help them with refurbishing
Not
the structure.
with the refit itself, didn't we give them money to do a study on the refit?
That was for the roof.
Yes, for the roof.
Yes.
Just to make sure it's done correct.
And some internal things to make it more comfortable, and like they're looking at about $1 million, $500,000 they've received from the province already.
Yes.
So what's happening to that $500,000 in that
Well,
proposal?
that would all still take place, as I understand it, because without all that, they can't even operate.
So that's not in place, this is not in place of that, we're still proceeding, or is the board?
They're still proceeding with that, absolutely,
Yeah.
because they need to make sure that the rink is safe to open.
Yeah, because even if we did this feasibility study, and even if we decided to get down the road of building a new rink, it'd be 10 years from now.
Yeah, okay, so I want to make sure that, because I understand there's been some changes on the board. The main driver behind that project has resigned from the board, I understand.
But two have stepped up and two good community members have stepped up, so I think
On
we
next.
are in good
No,
hands.
not you, Adele. Adele's next.
Yeah, I just think that, so did they have the new AGM yet? So I think we're getting ahead of ourselves here a little bit. I think, shouldn't we wait till the new board is picked? Are they gonna do what's your feeling, Sharon?
No, there's two community members that are going to be coming on right away, not waiting until the AGM, which will be in probably
Or
August.
just replacing people in resign.
They're replacing them. I don't know
Oh, okay,
whether
I thought the AGM was like next week.
No, it's not, and I don't know whether to speak who the two people are, because I just don't know if it's actually gone through the
Yeah.
total vote, but I think the two community members will bring a lot to the
Oh,
board,
that's
and,
good. I thought the AGM was like within weeks.
they're waiting for financials, doesn't make sense to have it.
Okay.
Who's next?
Yeah, I'm not going to people even say our rink is very important in this county, and I support a lot of what they do, and I'll probably support some of the things moving forward. I just have one question, was this a board decision, this letter, or it says on behalf, was this a board vote and decision to send this letter to this county?
Yes, it was.
Okay. Even if we, just the thought of building a rink, I think the feasibility study makes sense. I don't think we should leave it in any way, shape, or form. And I'm disappointed that there's not a representative for this request here today. I think there should be someone from Well, I don't think she was on our representative. I think we should have had someone on that board to answer some of those questions, possibly, what their intentions are, and that's it.
Well, I'll just comment, they would have come and it was felt just to get this before council, certainly if you want the board to come in and make a presentation, certainly they will. It's just that right now, the chair was
He's not well.
not well and just at the time he couldn't come in, so.
So I think from what I'm hearing, what we should indicate to the board is that we're prepared to
Look into it.
look into it, but there's a lot of detail that's not here that we need.
Maybe invite them to appear.
Yes, yeah. Well, Andre
I was just
first.
gonna say that, you know, presumably this is a big decision and it must form part of some sort of strategic plan that they have. And I think that if they're gonna make these, like, this is sort of like unsupported by any information, so if they can come and can give us some insights into what the plan is.
Yeah.
Like, even if it has a number of decision points, explain to us how this fits into all that.
Yeah,
And then it makes it a lot easier for us to manage.
yeah.
It sort of came out of nowhere.
Before you go and get a price, you need terms of reference, like what are you trying to find out, you know?
Feasibility.
Yeah, well, but it's a little more complex than that.
Yeah, like there's a lot of,
Yeah, is it
There's a lot of
on-site,
things
is it
you can do.
off-site, is there? What all are you trying to build, if you do think about it, and all that kind of stuff,
Yeah,
there's a lot of stuff.
Yes. So I agree with everything that we said, and I try not to be repetitive, but yet I am, so, you know. So there's a couple things, I'm seeing this as not a rink, but a multi-purpose, multi-recreation facility, and I think we all do. And, you know, obviously we recognize it may not be part of our strategic actions or strategic priority or work plan here, let's say. It is in that we are looking at population resident attraction and resident retention, not just attraction, but retention and all that that involves. Businesses, new businesses, again, it's said over and over again when it comes to what's a checklist for a new business or a business to relocate to an area. We know that's one of the top, used to be one of the top 3 recreation facilities. Don't know if it still is or not. But also added to that, going around inviting members of the board in to present to council, I think that would be a great idea. To have through conversations, how we all learn through discussion. And I think it can be a conversation, and I think it can be not just maybe the using the terminology in the 3rd paragraph down, a key group of individuals who recently approached our board. So I think this should be a wide open discussion, if you will, and we make sure that all of those interests, and I think through Sharon will make sure that that happens, that whoever is interested in this dialogue gets invited to sit here with us at the table.
Maybe at some point, but I mean, I'm just looking at this as a request from the board, or what do you want?
Oh, that would be.
Yeah, that's a start.
Mhm.
And if we land the road, then of course we're gonna have public input on what it all means.
And of course, similar to today, we may have those individuals in the audience who may ask to speak. You never know, right?
Oh, I expect it will. Anyway, I just think we need more information. We need to meet the board. I think that it's fair to say that we're supportive of it in a general sense. But it's just the role that we play and where it is we're trying to go and how much are you asking for and all that kind of stuff. You know, yeah. So we'll invite them in.
Okay, that's fair.
Okay, so that was that into that. Okay, I think I'm on to 11.1.
Right, and Tim's not here, so he prepared a request for decision
Oh, just on banking.
on
stuff.
banking resolutions that we're looking for. The first one is a borrowing resolution for Scotiabank. So we have a credit facility with Scotiabank right now that we maintain. It's a credit limit of $600,000 and it's in place in case we need that for a short-term deficit for our general operating account. To date, we haven't had to use that, and there's no immediate expectation that we would need that, but we maintain it as a matter of good practice. So there is a borrowing resolution attached that we would look for a motion to approve to maintain that credit facility in good standing. And then the second one is a certificate of account authorities for a Bank of Montreal, a BMO credit or card program. So we are looking at our purchasing and procurement practices. And we're looking at replacing our current corporate credit cards that we have with Scotiabank with a program that's offered by BMO that's called their P cards, but they're very similar to, they look and operate much like a credit card, except that on the back end, it has us a little bit more control. We can issue them to individuals, and when we issue them to individuals, we can put controls on them, like they might only be for gas purchases, or they might only be for grocery store purchases, or like we can put more controls in there. We can put purchasing limits on there per individual. So it gives us more internal control. So we would need to establish an account with BMO in order to be able to do that. And that account would have the same authorities as our other bank accounts. So we would need either the warden or deputy warden and a signing authority and one of the director of finance and information services, the clerk or the CAO. So very similar to our other ones. It's just a new account to allow us to set up those credit cards.
Anybody have any issues with that? Pretty straightforward. Somebody prepared to move, we adopt, or we approve the two resolutions, or resolutions.
So,
Second.
Discussion, all those in favor, opposed, motion's carried. 11.2 corporate strategic management welcome zones.
Good morning. We have a request for decision for council today on the municipal welcome signs. The most recent motion in regards to this project directed staff to come back with reduced sign size. They were 8 by 5 originally, and we have come back with a reduced sign of 4 by 3. Consultation with Acadia First Nations and consideration of French wording. So we have attached the map, which is the proposed signage locations. That has not changed from the last time you were in front of council with this project. And we also attached the proposed design of the sign. So we confirmed that the sign purchase and printing would be done by KJB Signs in Hubbards. The cost for 6 signs would be around $4,000 plus HST to install them. Acadia First Nation indicated to staff that they're not opposed to having welcome in Mi'kmaq on the sign. And we have added the French wording as well.
Yeah.
So the options for council today, and this is also budgeted. We have budget in our capital budget for this year. So just looking for direction, decision from council on whether they want to proceed with this sign, the design, the installation, and the cost not to exceed $4,000.
We have a printed copy of the actual size.
Oh, do we?
That Chad included.
Yeah, I was wondering.
So you can actually see what would be on the side.
This is the 4 by 3. Yes.
Yeah.
And so our budget was $30,000 with the revision in the size and the new scope. It's under $4,000 for installation of all of them.
Oh, 4,000, that's good.
Yeah.
So how much per sign is it? Again,
The sign themselves, I think we're around $400 for printing. And then we need some posts and such to get them installed.
So how many are there?
6.
And we have a site, right?
Yeah, the map is.
The map is attached and basically the 6
the
points
entrance
entering.
points by public roads into Municipality of Chester. What do you want to do?
Yes. Second.
Opposed, motion's carried.
Thank you.
I just have to restart stuff anymore. No, yeah. Yeah, well,
I
that's.
think you did so.
I really, all those stuff.
11.3, yeah.
I need glasses.
Oh, good, you're here. I got a question for you. Great. I might remember.
Okay, we have a request from Deep Cove Property Association for a private street and improvement fee to be implemented. They are registered with the Nova Scotia Joint Stock Registry and has submitted documentation attached to the report. They have requested a fee calculation method of per owner to cover annual maintenance such as plowing, brushing, and ditch maintenance, as well as an extension of Larch Lane. The bylaw requires that 67% of property owners of real property who represent 67% of the real property in the affected area provide a positive response. There are 43 properties. We've had 33 positive responses, which represents 76% of the total affected properties, 80% by area, and 70% of the unique property owners. And we have a spreadsheet that has the PIDs, property owner names, and their responses. And there's 3 options for council to go ahead and approve their request for the fee maintenance, to not approve it, or to delay and request more
We
information.
usually do what you ask us.
Well, they meet the requirements.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sylvia, for working with the property owners in District 6, if you will, in terms of this effort. So thank you very much. So I know it's a lot of back and forth and a lot of working.
Yes.
Does anybody have any issues, questions? Somebody prepared to move, we through it?
So
Check.
Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed, motion carried. I already got one for you.
You got another
Now, I
question?
can't find my little slip of paper, but I can remember, I think, it was only yesterday afternoon, somebody came to see me. They came to see me because they live on Borgels Point Road, the new name,
Yes.
and, their concern was that, they're not with the post office, they did this, that, and that. Who notifies Canada Post about the new civic address? And I told them I had no clue, but there
Well,
must be a process by which Canada Post is made aware of it.
yeah, so once the province changes the name, they notify the affected bodies involved, but we can also notify Canada Post as well.
Well, I told them that I didn't know that it was our responsibility, that I tell you. and
Well,
that
we
you would
can-
figure out
doesn't help,
who
it doesn't
is, and
hurt,
they had
yeah.
me told
Yeah.
somebody would do it, I just didn't know it.
I think Canada Post is aware of the 2 spellings, that people have used both spellings for quite some time.
Well,
But
that's
we
what I
can
told
certainly
them, I
go
said-
ahead and notify Canada Post, but I think they already have been notified by the province.
They didn't appear to know as of yesterday.
Okay, well, we'll do it again.
Okay, yeah, because they were concerned with federal government checks and stuff coming to them, things like that, whatever. I told them you fix it.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, I don't know whether to have a break or move on to the next one. I guess we'll do it and then have a break. Chester Commons sidewalk.
Right, could be contentious.